Hello all. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, or whatever winter special event you guys celebrate. Get out there and celebrate and enjoy it. But as the last video of 22, I wanted to just get out here and talk a little bit about role-playing games and how to get started. I wanted to show you my Christmas shirt for this year. It's got my two black cats on it. My wife got me this. It's been really, really fun. I've been wearing as much as I can through the holidays, and I'm looking good in it, so I like it. Because over my last two videos, the one about, of course, started out where there was other people who did videos about how there weren't any DMs. Huge DM shortage on that, and then why that was. And I kind of expressed the factor that I think people make it too damn hard for themselves. And, I go back and forth on it, but I thought in this video, I would just tell you what the heck I do. What I have done for almost 50 years now in role-playing. And it's so very simple, but it works really, really well for me. And I think for a lot of you, if you think about it and start to look at it and maybe make it, something for yourself, you would find it's really easy for you. So let me tell you how I start. First of all, I decide, what game system am I going to use? Now, not so far much in the mechanics of the game, but usually in whatever background color it is. So in D&D, back in the original days, there wasn't a system, so everyone just sort of had an open world that everybody played in. But soon things like Greyhawk, later Forgotten Realms, but all kinds of other things got produced by other people. There were rules, books, there were board games, there were all kinds of things like Divine Right that came out. And, even that's a world that could be used for role-playing games. It doesn't matter. But the thing I like about it, why I loved Albion, is because the rules give you a basic framework and color, as do books and movies. So I always tell people, first thing out of the gate might be for you to look into like Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars, or Star Trek. If, whatever game milieu genre you're utilizing, there is lots of great information about that out there. So you want to embrace that. That's your world. That is going to be the color. And the reason is you don't have to read tomes. You surely don't have to do it in the middle of a campaign game or anything else. You know what the world of the Lord of the Rings is. You know what a hobbit town looks like, and what the elves think and the dwarves think and the great minds, how orcs are. All of that color is already there for you. So use it, steal it, put it in your brain, and make that your campaign. So you know what everything looks like and feels like and smells like, and how the people interact with each other, and who likes who and who doesn't like who, and how that works out. It makes it so much easier for you as a DM to just simply be able to sort of lay out the game while it's playing. Now, if you want a framework, it's very simple. Draw yourself a little map. Could be an area map, could be a dungeon map, could be a ruin, could be anything you want. That way you have framework to put your lair creatures in. So the situation in The Hobbit where the dwarves and Bilbo are on the road, and the three trolls come out and they steal the ponies and they drag them off. And you've read the story, so you get the idea that eventually the Hobbit talks the trolls into delaying their slaughtering of the dwarves long enough for Gandalf to come along and help out, and dawn rises and the trolls are turned to stone. It's epic because not only do you have the trolls, which are a challenge, the way they defeated them was a fabulous role-playing event. Maybe it didn't turn out that way. Maybe it was a combat instead. However you want to do it is great. But then there's a lair treasure with all kinds of cool things. Now, I tell you, those things don't have to be proportional. Most systems I've noted that come up with things, they start with a real proportional attitude. When you're low level, they give you low-level junk, and it moves on from there. It doesn't need to be that way. Anybody obviously studying Lord of the Rings knows that the One Ring ended up in the hands of a really kind of low-level halfling burglar. And that led to all the rest of the adventures for this group. It's that way in the games. It should be. Make it really simple for yourself. As far as game mechanics go, you've heard me say it, I don't care. I'm running my own system, so I like it because it's going to do what I want, normally speed things up and give me lots of cool, crunchy things and heroic chances for die rolls. But the idea is the game will play quickly, and that's important to me because I find nowadays people don't spend 6 hours wanting to play role-playing games like they did back in the 70s, or in our case, what we used to do is play all weekend. So games would start on Friday and they'd finish up sometime late on Sunday, and we'd have played multiple adventures and done all that. That doesn't happen now. Usually people's lives are busy. They want to get together Friday. They want to have a slam bam, big adventures, slay the bad guys, get the treasure and the gold, and have this all done in less than 4 hours. And that is tough to do in 5th edition role-playing. And it gets tough for DMs who are trying so very hard to be the ringmaster and game master in all this. And that's the issue. It should be simple. Most times, especially if you're a newer GM, I always say the same thing. Don't run the rules. Let someone else in the group who knows the rules better than you run them. If you are the only one who knows the rules, well, then don't worry about it. Do the best you can. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to tell people that right off the bat. It's like, look, we'll make mistakes, and if we make them, we'll try to rectify it or fix it, or, give you a benefit down the road. But until you guys know the rules better than me, it's up to me to make the decision. And that's what you get. But keep it in the fact that it should all be in your mind. All you should have, realistically, is a little primer. Now, for those of you who watch Matt Colville, he did a fabulous video many years ago, one of his first videos about basically your first adventure. How you create a simple little dungeon, with little goblins, and there's some trips and traps and treasures in it. And you go in and you do that. It's a real tried and true and simple way to get games to go. And most of them do that. But maybe you want something a little bit more, maybe political intrigues, or maybe something where Matt started out his video where it was like an unbeatable foe, where you're going to start the game by losing. We've done all of these things over the many decades. And the point being is it doesn't have to be long planned, drawn out, becoming ponderous and hard to just present because it is so detailed, and you may not know the detail. So don't know the detail. You draw the map, you make the detail up as you play it. What is it? I don't know. Maybe I don't think about it till right away. Maybe it's Elven, maybe it's Dwarven, maybe it's something else, or underground giant mind flail. It doesn't matter. You figure it out as you're starting, and you just embellish. You talk up the color. What does this look like? What does that look like? You can make this up. Just do it simply. The walls are gray. It looks like stone, maybe Dwarven construction. That's all you have to do. If you want to do more, you can. Not all of you are going to be like great unwinders of the Bard's Tale, like, Matt Mercer out there, fabulous with all his people who do voices, and they really can get into their characters and bring them to life. That's great. You may get there, your people may not, but they're still going to be excellent at the adventures, and they're going to love them. From that moment on, you're letting the players secretly drive the campaign. You want to make everyone think that the world is all presented. That's why using game systems, movie systems, realms that people know make it very easy, because it's easy for people to buy into the world if it's all presented. I ran some of Matt's stuff in his game, which I think made him uncomfortable, because Matt had just super detailed in his mind what his world was like. And as he was pouring it forward, he had filling in the areas and making them more detailed for his books and other things he did. But the problem is still 90% of everything is going to be in your mind as you're presenting it. And I think Matt felt uncomfortable that I was rattling around in that world, bringing my own feel to the world. Now, that may not have been the case. You can always ask Matt, but that was the thing that I loved, because he gave me a world that I could look into. I understood how Matt thought and how his games played, how they felt when I played in them. And I was trying to endear that into the game and provide then my own little twist on that so he could enjoy it. And we had some really good games. I mean, if you talk about the party breaking into the gnomish bank and fighting the treasure golem, I mean, it was a real interesting, lots of things that happened that made the game fun for the players. But in all these cases, you're letting the players drive it. Even if they don't know they're driving the game, you let them drive it. So what you do, you present 3 little encounters of random monsters, just for appropriate level. Maybe 4, maybe 5, as many as you plan to play for time. And you set them up in order. Now, you might want to vary it depending on the group, the party, all these things. Now, you also have variables. You don't really know what you're going to have necessarily in your group unless you're very rigid. I mean, 4 people might show up, 8 people might show up. So your party might be from 4 to 18, unless you're playing Fantasy Troop with me, in which case it might be 8 to 16, because usually we always have everybody bring 2 characters each, unless you, of course, don't want to. But I've had monster parties. It doesn't make any difference. The rule system will run itself. The dice will determine the luck, the variables, and the things like that. That's not in your job. What your job is to present the story and wind it down. And if something goes bad, even the better opportunity for you to add some new color. Somebody gets captured, somebody gets killed, and oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And all these things can change at your whim, but listen to what the players are saying in the game. Listen at their detail. So if they want more detail in something, give them more detail in that. If they want less, give them less. The other thing I always say is throw out something really cool in the beginning. Usually it's some kind of really cool magic item. It doesn't even need to be that powerful, but something interesting. A magical item that speaks. It gives you advice and talks to your player and insults them or annoys them. It's really powerful, but I'm not willing to give you all my power until I understand that you're worthy. So let's talk more about you. Well, the player's like, well, wait a second. What's going on? This sword does or doesn't want to help me. But then maybe at some critical moment, the sword bursts into flame against trolls and saves the day. And that was miraculous. And it's like, well, don't expect that every day from me, because you still suck as a hero. But maybe down the road, I'll feel better about you. It's all up to you interacting and feeding off the players and letting them feed more ideas to you. I've always done it. It's always worked. At situations, half the time I tell people, and it's true, at the beginning of a campaign, I don't know how it's going to end. I really don't. Because I know I see from start 1 to start finish what it's going to be, but I'm never going to be that square peg trying to crush it into a round hole. The players are going to make the decisions, and those decisions will change the campaign every time it's played. My friend Kevin once said something, and I thought it was really enlightened. We were playing a game system which they hated, called RuneQuest, which I loved, and he didn't like the idea that you had to swear fealty to a god in order to get powers above 100. Now, I thought it was really neat. I thought it was really great within the color. It provided me a unique framework. It wasn't like any other game system, very much like Empire of the Petal Thrones, very different. But he said something. He goes, look, if the only way we can win is your way, why are we playing? And that I really thought was truly brilliant, and especially looking at modules, because the thing with modules is most people run them in, if the only way you win is by doing what the module wants you to do, well, where's the role playing? Where's the gaming? Where's the change of the dynamics? I understand it. I understand why people do it. But truthfully, you spend so much more time doing a module. From my days of doing the living games when I would DM, I had to pour through these modules to read all the color. And I'm a pretty quick study on games because I understand where they're going and what they're trying to accomplish. 3 encounters, stepping in involvement to a big crescendo battle with some bad guy at the end. And we're going to throw out some role-playing color and some history of our world. And that was really great until I realized that all the people who had run those modules for me in the previous had never read the modules, didn't know about any of the role-playing color. If they did, they likely didn't even know what it meant within the framework of the game they were playing. So it was a waste of time. They could have just got up there and said, open the door, kill the monsters, take the treasure, go. Most people would have been happy, and nobody would have known that they were giving out some pivotal piece of information that was going to be later super important in the negotiations between political ramifications in different kingdoms and everything else that nobody knew because nobody had the understanding of what was going on. Well, modules can't throw everything down somebody's throat, and you can't know what modules they played and which ones they played well or which ones they skipped because they don't have it. Whereas if you unwind the story of Lord of the Rings, maybe it's second age or third age, fourth age, doesn't matter. Up to you, but you're up running the story and you know what the political situation is. Who hates these characters? Who do these characters feel loyal to? What monsters do they have enmity to? Oh my gosh, this dragon slayed our friend. We're going to get him. It might take years, but we're going to do it. Now they're driving the game for me. I never have to come up with an adventure. I just have to put them on the path that they've stated they want to get on. And that goes from there. It was the situation with the gnomes. The gnomes had backstabbed them and cheated them and everything else. And it went one after another. And eventually the gnomes became sort of the big bad guy, but they really weren't the big bad guy. But it didn't matter for the story. It made the game fun for the players. And that, when it all boils down to, is exactly what we're doing. Make the game fun. So get yourself a world. I say Lord of the Rings because everybody knows it. My friend Steve is running a group of people who've never played before, playing our role-playing system. And, they don't know any different. So this is all canon to them, but they know Lord of the Rings. They know who Boromir and Frodo and all these people are in the game. And when they go to a town of Bree, or whatever, they know what to expect. And if it's Smaug or whatever pops up in Steve's game, people go, oh, I know what that is. They have a feeling. So can we do this? Can we go do this and try to circumvent everything else? Now you have the game you want. The players are going, ooh, I don't know if we can do this, but maybe we can sneak in and steal a little bit of treasure from this dragon and not get caught, or whatever they want to do. What it's up to you as the DM is figure out ways to say yes. Do it. The challenges are hard. The outcomes may be bad, but the whole point is the players always get to feel like they're making the game happen, not you pushing them into a module. So take your little dungeon, or one you steal, take a module dungeon so you have a map, fill it with the monsters you want to be there, or use the ones that are there. Take all the treasure that's in the dungeon, if you still want to use a module and you don't want to generate, and just put all the treasure in a big chest at the end. And you can sort of divvy it out as they move along, or at the end, whatever big baddie they fight happens to have the chest with everything in it. So they don't miss anything if they go to another module run by maybe somebody else or just down the road. This was very important in 4th edition because there was so much magical items being given out on a regular basis that they expected that your characters were going to acquire so many per level. And if you get stymied in that, that could be problematic for your characters. The idea is to make the experience memorable, exciting, challenging, all the things we talk about in, the monster mambos and everything else. It's all meant to basically draw and feel out an experience that at the end of the day, people feel that was way more fun than just watching a movie of Lord of the Rings. It was actually like I was there. And that's what I think people want. Then just make a bunch of encounters, random encounters. So if they travel here, we have this, we have that. Hopefully close to, level appropriate. But again, that's still up to you. And then a big bad guy in a lair at the end. Maybe 1 or 2 smaller lairs for them to get in. If maybe they don't do so well, maybe they at least get some decent treasure. You can portion out some of the good stuff, and they can come back later to try to finish off the adventure. All of it's simple. But you haven't done anything but just use a small adventure, have a couple encounters, a big bad guy, you write up, so you've got whatever mechanics and whatever game system you're using. And to me, that really doesn't make a difference. All a matter of what you like. 5th edition works fine. I mean, not my favorite, but the great advantage of 5th edition is it's got the most people playing it, which means it has the most opportunities for you to get out there and run a game. But for you, the idea is simple. Simple, 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 simple. Don't worry about it. If you're new and you botch it up, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to hold it against you. And if it's really badly botched up, you just go, hey, I really badly botched up some stuff here. Why don't we just do A or B or C? But most of the players are going to say, hey, look, go from there. That was what happened. Experienced players not going to jump on you. Normally, the guys who are really in the game, like me, they're going to want to help you get better, because if they make you a good DM, you're going to DM more, which means they have to DM less. And that's the thing Matt said at the very beginning. I want to get as many good DMs out there, because the more good DMs out there, the more opportunities I have to play in a good game. And I want to play in one of your good games. So think of it that way. Keep it real simple. Simple map, just a few encounters, a bag full of treasure, maybe a village. You just say, okay, Bob and Sid and Ted and whatever in this little village, and there's a blacksmith, and there's a merchant who buys crappy gear you find in the dungeons, and there's somebody who sells magic potions, and maybe there's an old crudgety wizard that maybe he'll talk to you, maybe he won't, but he can identify items and maybe have something secret for you in the future. Well, there's your town. You don't have to worry about anything more than that now. If you want to draw one up, you can. If you want to add more stuff, well, you can. If you want to find maps out there, you can. I mean, pretty much whatever you want to do, it's available out there. Much more than in the old days when you pretty much had to draw it out. And eventually it'll be your campaign and you will be as great as any other DM out there. I guarantee it. I'm nothing special. I just did it a lot and I cared about my games. And I wanted people to go at the end going, wow, that really sucked. You really murdered us, you bastard. But then a week later, they rescue themselves or do whatever, and then they get out there and they go, wow, that was incredible. We did this, we did that, we did something else. But he was going to save the day. And that is all the stuff that sticks in people's minds when they can be happy and excited about the fact you gave them a game. My wife, who never played, didn't like role-playing, can't stand the rules, doesn't want to be involved in all that, doesn't like to get in groups of people who know more about the game than she does because she feels dumb. But when she role-played the game in my Empire of the Petal Throne thing with her priestess, it was remarkable. It was incredible. And I just gave her a bodyguard that was really nasty so that when it came down to some fights, which I threw in, she could learn the rule system and learn how the combats worked. Still never felt comfortable as much with all the players who were really, really seasoned. That is one of the problems around me. I have a lot of seasoned players, and sometimes they can be a little intimidating. Not intentionally, but because, when they can sit there and quote chapter and verse of 15 sets of rules, you're dealing with a lot of people who are pretty detailed in the hobby. But, for the new year, just try this in your group. If you haven't DM'd before, or if you've already DM'd before and you're running modules, just don't tell anybody it's not a module. Just write it up, do it. Get the stuff, get the encounters, put it there. Put up your DM screen so they won't know you're not looking at a book. So give it a try. If not, no matter what happens, Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great 23, and we'll be talking to you again. So fight me, devils, fight, for I hate peace, and game on.